At least 10 people have been killed in a school shooting in a remote area of Canada's British Columbia. The incident took place at the Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, where 7 people were shot. A spokesman for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police said the shooter then turned the gun on herself. Now, 2 more people were found dead at a nearby home, believed to be connected to the incident. About 2,400 people live in Tumbler Ridge, which is located in the Rocky Mountains. That's more than 1,000 kilometres north of Vancouver, near the border with Alberta. Around 175 students attend Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. Now, mass shootings are rare in Canada. The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has now cancelled his trip to the Munich Security Conference. Authorities are saying the community is in shock.
While the RCMP emergency alert has been lifted, the people of Tumbler Ridge remain in a state of crisis following one of the worst mass shootings in our province's and country's history. This is a devastating day for a close-knit community, and the loss being felt is profound.
We are joined now by journalist Trent Ernst, who's with the Tumbler Ridge Line's newspaper. He was one of the first people on the scene after the shooting at the Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. Trent, thank you so much for your time. We understand, of course, this is a very difficult time for your community. Can I ask you to tell us what you witnessed when you arrived at the school?
So I was alerted to the fact that there was a possible school shooting. So I grabbed all my stuff, drove out there. I could not actually get to the school. The road to the school was blocked by a couple district vehicles. There were more district vehicles at the other side. Tumbler Ridge is a very small town, so our entire complement of the RCMP, which is the Canadian Police Force, is 5 people in town. So they couldn't position RCMP officers at the road entrances. So I grabbed my phone and was getting ready to go live when the alert went out saying shelter in place and be on the lookout for a possible school shooter, described in the alert as female, brown hair, wearing a dress. And then, from there, I basically just kind of went to as close as I could get to the school, while not being on the schoolyard, because I know that they don't like it when, these things happen and you go in there with a camera. But so I just kind of was filming it and providing commentary on the Ridgeline's Facebook page. And there was occasionally RCMP vehicles that would pull up, and the RCMP officers would enter the building. So I was pretty sure that whatever was happening by that time had stopped happening, since they weren't, surrounding the building and not going in. They were just kind of walking in and out. Okay.
Trent, we understand that the shooter killed themselves. From what you're saying, what we know is that the shooter is a female. Yeah. Is there any sense at all of what the motive might be?
Nothing that I am prepared to go public with it now. Tumbler Ridge is a very small town, and I think everybody has probably heard who it was who did the shooting, and possibly even who the victims were. I am trying to operate through the bounds of decency. I don't want to say, "Oh, did you hear it was this person?" and it turns out it wasn't.
Sure.
I'm trying to avoid speculation, but the first bit of information that went out was that the shooter had been found deceased, which is usually shorthand for shot themselves.
Okay. Trent, you've mentioned several
And
times.
that proved to be the case.
You've mentioned several times how small the community is. Can you tell us about how the students, their families, how people will be dealing with what has happened, which is an awful thing to happen anywhere, but in a community that's so small, it must really be just an incredibly awful feeling for the people who live there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of head down working on this, so I haven't really been into the human tragedy yet. But I know there were seven people at the school who were killed. Probably at least some of them were students, then plus the shooter, who may or may not have been a student there as well. We have probably 150, 160 kids at this school. So that's a pretty large number, 10, just about 10 people in a school of 150 people. So, yeah, it's, I can't help but think my kids are both out of school now. My youngest left last year, and I can't just, you don't want to be saying, thank goodness it wasn't my kid, but thank goodness it wasn't my kid.
Yeah.
And I just, I can't even, I'm trying to, when I'm wearing my journalist hat, I can, sort of process it as a event that I am covering. But there was a moment there where I went to talk to my youngest, and was just had to hug him, and yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you for speaking to us, because obviously this is such a difficult time for all of you. I just wanted to ask you, given that school shootings or mass shootings like this in Canada are not particularly common, I mean, are there any kind of security measures at the school to help deal with a situation like this?
No, something like this is not even considered a possibility in a place like Tumbler Ridge. Like I say, it's a school of about 150 people. If there's a kid in the classroom, with flipping his knife back and forth, he gets sent to the principal's office. That's just, it feels so 1960s, 1970s compared to when you look at what happens, in larger communities down in the States. But, there is a sense of it's a very safe place, and that sense has been broken.
Journalist Trent Ernst in Tumbler Ridge, Canada. Trent, we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you.
Let's get the very latest from journalist Emily Ragobeer, who joins us from Toronto. Welcome, Emily. So 10 people dead, 8 in a high school, 2 more at another location. Tell us more about how these events unfolded. What do we know?
Absolutely. It has been an unimaginably tragic day. What we're hearing very differing numbers. What we're actually hearing is 9 dead, 6 victims found at the school, including the shooter, 2 at another location, as you just mentioned, and 1 who passed away on the way to hospital. But what we understand from what we've heard so far is that an emergency response was activated towards this school at just after 1 p.m. local time, where authorities came into contact with an active shooting situation. And the girl, the woman We hear very little details about. Hasn't been identified, but is reported to have been wearing a dress with brown hair. Like I say, very little information, and then died of self-inflicted wounds. An emergency alert was sent out to the community to shelter in place. And as you mentioned earlier, this is a very small town, just over 2,400 people. The healthcare services center is not that far from the high school itself. So just an unimaginable situation. You heard there from the safety minister as well as the premier of British Columbia, David Eby, talking about the little information that we do know so far. But as to a motive, as to what actually transpired, very little detail at this time. We have heard from students that have been talking to local media who were in this school when this shooting occurred. They were in lockdown for over 4 hours and evacuated the school after 6 p.m. So that was a good amount of time to be locked down. And students reported saying that their school principal or school teachers were going door to door saying, lock your room. School students, teachers, staff barricaded themselves with whatever desks and chairs they could find. It's like you said earlier, this is very uncommon to be happening in Canada. Since 1975, over 5-6 decades, Canada has only experienced 8 school shootings. Of course, one is too many, but in comparison to places like the United States that experience hundreds a year, it's just really unimaginable what has happened here.
Okay, so just to go back what you were saying about the shooter, so you said they were wearing a dress. It is believed to be a female, but there's no sense yet about what the motive could be.
That is correct. Whether or not the shooter had any relation to any of her victims, what the relationship was, none of that is being revealed at this time. But as you can imagine, social media has been very jarring in a time like this, because a lot of information circulating right now amongst people in this small community who think they know who the shooter is. But official word from authorities have not come through on that as of yet. And just the idea of firearms in this country, Canada has real particular laws about how firearms are used in this country. And while there is an uptick in gun violence across Canada, most of the firearms that have come into this country have been illegal firearms. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of speculation at this point as to what the motive could have been, what the relationship with the shooter and these victims could have been. But at this time, we are still waiting for those particular details to come in.
All right, this is obviously a moving story, but we will have to leave it there for now. Journalist Emily Ragobeer in Toronto, thank you so much for your update.